Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Very excited for today's guest. He is the CEO and founder of Bedrock Business Builders. And what he does is he helps people, he actually educates people so they can run their businesses. Very excited to be rocking out today with Joe Dichiara.
I'm ready. That was good.
So now let's bring this to a good note then. So now what's a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by?
Which one?
anyone
Me, my clients.
Well, so people who are listening to this podcast, we're just getting started in our business for the most part, and so people are looking for a little bit of inspiration. What I want to do is I want to help people to see that you don't have to be sitting in your cubicle and not loving your life. You can get out there. You can start your own business.
So how's this? There's no big success. If you think there is, you're mistaken. There's just a lot of little successes along the way. And that, I think, is one of the most important lessons I ever learned. It's a matter of, you could go down a rabbit hole with this saying, what do you mean by success? But you can get an award, you can become, a billionaire and still not be successful. There is no there. You know what I'm saying? Especially for entrepreneurs, we never get there because you always want more. If you don't, then you're not really an entrepreneur. So I look at every day and I'm like, when I get my first workout in, it's already a success. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you do have to count the little successes here and there because, sometimes it can be a while before you actually hit a big goal. And how do you stay motivated, right?
Absolutely.
Now,
that's a whole nother subject.
Now, all along the way, I like to kind of pair the good note and the bad note because there are lots of little failures as well that happen. And so I'm wondering, can you share something that didn't go as planned that we can maybe avoid if it's happening to us or even recover from?
Absolutely. So just like success, there's failures every day too. I was supposed to put my second out in before this podcast. So now I'm behind schedule. But, just like the successes, you got to expect the failures. My coach is a former special ops Green Beret. And he used to get on stage and say, you're going to fail. And I hated when he said that. But what he meant was, you're going to fail, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. When we start businesses, tell me something that actually happened exactly the way you thought it would or wanted to. It never happens that way. You have a goal, you want to do something, and whether you make it there or not, it's like, okay, there were a lot of twists and turns. COVID, oh my God, that's off the charts. But guess what? So was 9/11, so was 2008, so was, World War II. Things happen. And if you're going to let it destroy your business, it'll destroy your business. Or you can just say, hey, this destroyed my business, but not me. I'm going to, pivot. I've seen so many people do it. My coach owns or operates hotels. You know what it's like to be a hotel owner now?
Not good, I would imagine.
They're looking for hotels to buy. Yeah. Because that's his solution. He's like, hey, they're bargain prices now.
Yeah.
But, there's going to be failures, especially in life. I have clients say, oh, my mother's sick. I'm like, yeah, my girlfriend just broke up with me. I'm devastated. What am I going to do? Close my doors? No, you take it, you take the failures with the successes, you try to run an even, stay on an even keel as much as you can. And there's ways to do it. I think we're going to talk about that.
Sure are. Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point because you know, you mentioned, you know, COVID happening, or even, you know, some of these big global things that kind of hit us all at the same time. And you know, I've done a lot of podcast interviews since COVID has started, and you know, it's funny that, you know, when you're talking to entrepreneurs, you know, this is something that was just devastating to most businesses. However, it seems like an entrepreneur is so used to failures and so used to things knocking them off track. They're like, oh, this is the next one. And they just, you know, turn around, recover, and move on from there. And I think that's really the key to being an entrepreneur, really, is just to be okay with those failures and, you know, just move forward, right?
What are your choices? Think about it. You know, you could be like, oh, I can't take this. And maybe you do, you know, maybe you have those temporary moments of insanity, the anxiety, that's normal. But at the end of the day, especially, you know, if you have a business, there's probably other people depending on you. Think about that. My coach, Larry, calls it your circle of influence. Now, when you own a hotel, you have your employees, right? You directly influence them, and they got their families. So you're indirectly influencing their families. And then you get, you know, you could go on a pretty long time. I think when he told me, he figured out that he was influencing, I forget, it's a crazy number. So what are you going to do? Crumble when things go bad? That, you know, you got to be a leader too. That's another quality. When you own it, I don't care if you're running a ice cream truck, you got to be the leader of the ice cream truck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I mean, when you talk about responsibility, yeah, when you're working a job, the difference would be that, you know, you have some responsibility to your boss, but I think we've been sort of programmed to not even care about that for some reason. However, you know, when you're running your own business, your responsibility is to your clients, your
But
responsibility is to your employees, right?
my clients, oh my God, you know what happened when COVID hit? My phone was ringing off the hook,
Oh yeah.
off the hook, which was a good thing. I was like, well, this will keep my mind off of the problem.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I went with it. Like, what choice did I have?
Yeah. So now you mentioned a few times that you have some mentors. Like I'm wondering, you know, how does that work for you? So first of all, I guess, how did you find these mentors in the first place? And why do you think it's important to have somebody as a mentor?
You know, most of the mentors found me. It's like the universe they just appeared. And a lot of the mentors I didn't know were my mentors when I had them. You know, just looking back, it was like, oh, you know, all these people that gave me direction, that I bounced questions off of, that I could use as role models. You know, they didn't have to be formal mentors, but you know, I have those now, and you know, I recognize them. I'm like, you know, you're one of my mentors because you have more money than God, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's the lifestyle. You know, I'm like, you have the kind, you know, and that doesn't mean everything's, you know, all dandy rainbows and puppy dogs with them, you know, and that inspires me. I'm like, you know what? They go through stuff too. That's another thing that I've learned. You see people, you know, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. You don't think they wake up with a headache sometimes?
Probably a bigger one.
And they all have stories of, oh my God, I was facing, it was the end of my life. Michael Dell almost went out of business. Apple almost went bankrupt. My problems, like I said, my girlfriend broke up with me like 3 months ago.
Oh,
She's talking to me now, so I have faith. But I'm like, that devastated me. Everything you put it in perspective. We have luxury problems here. That's the way I look at it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you do get so much from having people to look up to, because and that's one of those things, right? When you see them be human, and you look up to them. I mean, you see all the things that they've accomplished in their business, and they're still having the same types of problems as you are. You're like, okay, I can get there, right?
And a lot of that, and I think that we were going to talk about masterminds. A lot of that comes up in these mastermind groups. Like in one group, I started saying, I lost a day. I thought today was Thursday and it was Friday. I was supposed to have uh, a coaching call at 10 o'clock, and I thought it was Thursday. And then all of a sudden, everybody says, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only one that happened to."
Yeah.
It's like, you mean it's normal for entrepreneurs because we're so stuck in the moment, the time. So I made it a habit to check my calendar every morning now to see what day it is.
I do the same thing. I have no idea what day it is.
But that's a matter of surrounding yourself with people, communicating. A lot of time you're doing your podcast, you're alone there, right? I'm in my room now, my office, I'm alone. A lot of people work alone.
Hmm.
Even if you have a team and employees, and then you isolate and you start getting in your head, and you're like, you think you're the only one having this problem, right? No, join the club.
Yeah.
That's what you signed up for when you decided to have a business.
So tell me about your mastermind then.
So I run a small mastermind group. It's free. We meet every week, every Saturday for an hour and a half. We play a game. My assistant created this game we call Jeopardy, and it's we cover topics that we're covering that month. So every month we do a workshop. This month was on tax problems. The month before was on getting grants. And so when people answer correctly, they get to ask a burning business question. And you'd be surprised. I mean, we have a lot of fun. We support each other. We network. We solve problems. I've seen people like grow tremendously. Because just through that process. So we're having fun, we're networking, and at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I learned all that stuff about, crowdfunding or, whatever. Now, there's all different kinds of masterminds. Again, you could have formal masterminds, or you can just have informal masterminds. You could pay $100,000 a year for a mastermind, or you could just say, hey, I'm starting a mastermind group. You wanna play?
Yeah.
And it's just a meeting of the mind. You say, hey, a mastermind when I was a kid, it was like, hey, we want to play baseball. We wound up with 20 kids and play baseball. We all had the same idea. And then while we're playing baseball, we do stuff. We get to know each other. That's what a mastermind is to me.
Yeah, me too. I've had many, many masterminds over the years, and that's exactly it. It's just a group of peers on different levels of their journey that are all, going for their own goals and sharing those experiences with the group.
And that's a great point, because we get people like me. I'm doing this. I'm an accountant 40 years. I've had my own business over 20 years. And then we get people that are like, I just got fired and I want to start my own business.
Thanks.
And then we find out, oh my God, I forgot what it was like to start a business. And, I'm still doing the same stuff as I was, 20 years ago. And it just puts a lot of things in perspective.
Yeah. So let's
It's not all about the numbers. That's what I thought. That's what they taught me in CPA school. As long as you could balance your books and you know what your profit margin is and your cash flow, you'll be happy.
That's a component of it for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's what we do. We help people with that. That's where the knowledge comes from. That's where the education comes from.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about that then. Let's talk about some cash flow, keeping the hat full, making sure that you've got more money coming in than going out. So what would be your advice on that?
A lot of this stuff, what I've learned, you know, we, number one, entrepreneurs overcomplicate everything. Okay, I don't know what it is, but, and again, I find this out in the mastermind groups, because somebody has an idea, and then we're like, you're taking 15 steps when all you got to do is take one. you know, so oh my God, I lost my train of thought. What was the question? Oh, cash flow, cash flow. So it's the same thing with cash flow. People get, first of all, most people don't like numbers. I get that.
Yeah.
If you like numbers, you're probably a bookkeeper, an accountant, an actuary. I had that epiphany a couple of days ago. I said, oh, this is what the problem is. People don't really like the numbers.
No.
So when it comes to, as soon as you talk about financials, taxes, I think people's like brain turn off because they don't look at it for what it is. Okay. So you hear cash flow. Number one, what does that mean? It means that there's more money coming in than there is going out. Right? That's the first thing. Just because you're making a profit does not mean you have cash flow.
Yes.
Okay, that's I've seen people, they got plenty of sales, but they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Or they got plenty of cash flow and they're losing money like crazy because they're just not paying their bills. The owner's taking out all the money and they're like, why am I struggling? So cash flow is, you got to be in control of your cash. That's the first idea. How do I get, well, you got to count it. You got to know how much is coming in, when it's coming in. You got to know when it's going out. And that's just simple bookkeeping. That's what it starts with. Like, and it starts with a simple chart of accounts. And then you have a bank account and you come up with a system where you're entering the transactions as they happen. Okay. And then you get a good accountant that knows how to look at the numbers and say, oh, you're going to be out of business in 3 months. How did Apple know that they were going to run out of, this company was doing hundreds, I don't even know how much sales they were doing, but they knew that we're going to run out of cash in 3 months. Okay, how do you know that? You got thousands of employees, all kinds of stuff going all over the place. Well, if they didn't know that, there would be no Apple now. It would be something told, they would have been bankrupt. But Bill Gates bailed them out. Imagine that. Well, Steve Jobs told him, I think he said, well, you're not going to have any competition then.
That's sneaky.
That's what they say anyway. I think that was funny. But, think about it, because they had system. Now, take a solopreneur, sole proprietor, somebody, like me. I don't have a giant staff. I only it was just me and my mom for a long time. I had a hodgepodge of assistants. I knew how to manage my cash flow. That's why it shocks me when I see people in business. I'm like, you never even did a bank rec. How do you know how much is in the bank? Well, I look it up online. That's not a good way to run a business. So we break it down into fundamentals. That's where the education comes in. Like a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, a tax return aren't going to bite you. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't even have to learn how to be a bookkeeper or an accountant, but you have to know what's going on with your business. And if you don't know your numbers, you can't possibly know what's going on. You might have an idea, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's science. It's science. It's simple math.
I think I think there's some deep programming for most people that, holds them back from, even looking at the numbers. Maybe some trauma around, not having enough money, or, whatever
You're
it is.
absolutely, it is, that's a funny thing. So it's almost like if you don't have a problem with money, there's something wrong with you. This
Mm,
is the United States. We're supposed to be overspending. We're supposed to be nervous about money. Uh,
yeah,
so people have issues about, I understand that. And that's part of why we do what we do. We try to make it simple. We try to make it fun, because it's almost like, who wants to go to the dentist? But if you don't, you're going to wind up with root canal.
yeah,
I don't want to go to the mechanic, but eventually I'm going to be grinding my brakes.
yeah,
So there's things where people, especially new business owners, what they don't understand is you're signing up. Once you start a business, you're under the jurisdiction of the IRS and the state that you're living in, whether you like it or not. Whether you know it or not, there's millions of accidental entrepreneurs, I call them, because now all of a sudden they're getting 1099s for stuff that might be a hobby. People that sell stuff online, like my mother. Okay, she
yeah.
does more than 5,000 in sales. The IRS is going to be looking for a check from her. That's insane.
Well,
So
I think
we,
probably one of the things that you said earlier is you mentioned that, knowing the transactions as they're coming in. So, and I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people just they don't do their bookkeeping often enough, and then it starts to pile up. Like I know, I mean, even myself, back long before, maybe when I first started my business, I would only really do my accounting at tax time, and that's way. I mean, it would take me days to get it to get it done and organized, just to give it to my accountant so that he could organize it. Now I do it, a couple times a week. But like, what would you say would be kind of a magic number on how often you should be looking at your transactions?
every day, I do. I want to see what's in my bank account so I could spend it.
Yeah.
Somebody else asked me that, and I was like, you got to be on top of it. It depends on how much you're doing, how many clients are. Did you ever wonder how the president of the United States can go on a vacation? It's because they manage their time.
Yeah.
And you must, this is the important thing. Vince Lombardi said, winning is a habit. They all said it. Back to Aristotle said, you are what you repeatedly do. So if you want to be good, you got to instill discipline. You got to have habits. Like I said, one of my habits now is to look at my calendar. I actually have one of my assistants email me my calendar. So if I forget to look at it, it's emailed today.
Nice.
I got a whole routine in the morning. One of them is to look at my financials. Now, I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm looking at a lot of different numbers, KPIs, prospects, but I'm doing this a long time. If you're a solopreneur just starting out, you got to spend at least, I would say, an hour a week, at least, trying to educate yourself. Look at the numbers, start asking your accountant questions. My clients never ask me questions. I got to tell them what to ask me. And that's part of what we teach people. I'm like, listen, if somebody else is doing your work, I want people, when they leave me as a client, because sometimes they leave, sometimes we have a parting of the ways. I won't be doing this forever. I want them to be able to go anywhere and know what they should be asking their accountant, what they should be looking at. Uh, I tell people right now, I said, you should be getting your tax transcripts from the IRS. Even if I did your return, sometimes returns don't get filed. Sometimes I think they're filed electronically. I had a couple of times when the software went down. So you see, get your transcripts, because you know how many, it's the anxiety of not knowing. That's the key. It's like you're scared because you don't know. It's like being scared of the boogeyman.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we tame the boogeyman. We tame the tiger.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're gonna have, it's not gonna be a fun ride.
No, I think that's it. It's like a downward spiral too. You're anxious that you don't know, so you don't want to look at it, and then it just keeps on like snowballing.
But
Like you say, next
you're
thing
right.
you know,
It's a personality thing. It's like, listen, you got to get over that.
Mhm.
If you want to be in business, you got to go get over that. It's called courage. It's like being afraid but still going forward. If you're not afraid, if you don't have butterflies at some point in your business, you're not alive.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
playing sports and never being nervous. That's normal,
Yeah, yeah,
being
absolutely.
nervous.
No,
It's like, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, well, I agree 100%. Like I've been playing music for 20 years, and like every gig I go up there, and there's just a little bit of that butterfly. I figure when that goes away, I'll stop playing because that's what drives you.
If it goes away, then you're missing something.
Yeah.
I used to
Hey,
tell people, I'm like, you don't think Derek Jeter, uh, Hall of Fame player, Mr. Clutch, Mr. November, you don't think he's like going up there saying, you know, something's going through his heart. I know that, somebody like that, they're so focused on it, but if they're not feeling something, feeling the crowd, get a job at Starbucks.
totally.
you know, so, but that's how I approach business.
Yeah.
Other people look at it different. It's just about the money. It's like, but for me, it's like, this is a journey. I want to have as much fun as I can. And I found out it's a lot easier to have fun when you have money. And
Absolutely.
that's what we want to do. Sometimes we got to tell people that, listen, this isn't a viable business. You have to go back to get a job. At least get a job and start something else part-time the right way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just start. Another thing I learned is you might have the greatest idea in the world and nobody cares about it. Then you don't have a business.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the web will allow you to reach more people. So there's a chance that there will be some other people that have that same interest as you. But yeah, you got to do that
But
market research.
it also gives you the opportunity to find out if you have a viable business. The internet is a great tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could find out anything. Look, we're doing this. We're doing this live. That's why we say, we're actually recording this. So you're going to be saying this sometime in the future, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So we're actually talking in the future. But I lost my train of thought again. It's out there in the future.
The internet. Well, let's talk a little bit about tools then.
Okay.
What are there, like, do you have any great tools that we can use to help us?
Absolutely. That's part of the challenge, because if you don't have a choice, you have to be using tools, and a lot of them are confusing. If you're using the wrong tools, it's a waste of time. If you're spending money on tools like I've done, we were talking about something before. It just reminded me about people not liking numbers and stuff. My mother retired. She was doing all my accounting work, but bookkeeping, accounting. She retired, and then I had to do it for a while. So we brought on some new accountants. And long story short, I made one of my accountants our CFO. It's like, why am I doing my own bookkeeping? This is great. I'm doing my own billing. So she starts doing it. Now she's an auditor. And she starts saying, why are you paying for this? And I was like, I forgot I paid for that. And it brought me down to, you know what? I'm glad I asked her to do it. She saved me a lot of money. A lot. It was shocking.
Yeah. You have that accountability, right? You have somebody that can kind of look at things, because
Yeah.
you sort of like,
But as we were going through it, we had to actually, and this was the point, as we were going through it, we had to determine, okay, we have this at that time, we needed it, but we only needed it for 3 months because we got this other tool. For instance, we were starting with, I don't even want to say the name of the software because it was great. It was one of these organizing project management software. And it was great if you had nobody to delegate tasks to. And if you didn't have, 80 clients and to track. So one of my friends is a software developer. It turned out that all of the tools out there didn't do all the stuff. They all did like one thing, but we needed 15 things. So she consolidated everything into one tool where we could just keep track of everything that an accounting firm needs to keep track of, including keeping it secure. But every week we do an email, and one of the subjects is tools, because it's so huge. Today we sent out, it's called PDF Converter. I don't know if you ever wound up with, like, you do?
I do.
Sometimes you get 8, you scan something, and from whatever the settings is, you get 8 scans, and you're like, no, I need it in one. So PDF Converter, we use Slack to communicate. At first, so here's another thing. At first, we were using Slack to communicate and share files. Then we found out that, well, it's not a good software to share files, because then you can't find them. There's no way to organize them.
You bet. Yep.
So we had to come up with, so sometimes we use Google Drive to share files. And we also have our tax files, which are on another system. So, a lot of it is trial and error. And then you got all the website tools and the social media tools. The thing is that you gotta do research. You gotta find out, if you gotta know what your needs are, okay? And like I said before, you got to break it down to say, what we did, and this really helped. This was an exercise that came from my coach. You take 3 or 4 days and you list everything that you're doing in your business. Okay, a couple of things will happen. You'll say, why am I spending time on this? But more importantly, it'll show you what you need. Like, when I do this, I need this kind of software. I need this kind of tool. It's like if you're building a house and you're like, I need to put this nail in the wood. What do I need? You're not going to use a saw. You're going to find a hammer. It's the same thing with your business, I think.
Agree. So it's time for
And
you guys.
not only that, here's one other point. One of my assistants brought this out. She's like, all the software, they all have tutorials. They all have, so use them. So it's amazing. We have a program, and nobody does the two, and then like 3 years later, you're like, I didn't know this did that. So use the tutorials. Invest the time and find out what these programs do.
Totally agree. So it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Oh man, there's a lot of things exciting, but one thing you might not get this, and I wouldn't have gotten it unless I went through it, but building my team, the way that we come together, it's, I've been on plenty of sports teams, and it's almost like they come up in the clutch. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, we got stuff. One of my one of our team members, we call each other team members. I don't have employees or workers. We're all on, I tell people I'm Joe Dichiara, and Bedrock Business Builders is a combined effort. Everything on my website, I said, I didn't do any of that. I might have wrote some of the stuff, but they can't come up with the graphics. They come up with stuff. Every month we do a workshop. All I do is say, okay, I want to talk about these, these are my 10 bullet points. Janine goes out there, she makes these unbelievable slideshows. She listens to me, she listens to my YouTube, my live recordings, and she makes graphics with quotes that like people, it's like, where did you get this? I just talked to her. She's like, I listened to your, it's like, who does this? And I've been blessed. The laws of attraction, that's the most exciting thing. I'm like, oh my God. And then it goes back to the leadership. I was like, oh my God, I can't let these people down. I'm not saying that. I was like, you know what? They're inspiring me. It's like we just hired another social media person. It's like, this is exciting. We just, we're growing. And then the money comes. The money don't come, that's if I can leave everybody with something. Money is a result, right? The money comes last after you did something. I don't care what it is. So you got to ask yourself, like, what is the something I'm doing? Am I enjoying myself? Am I having fun? Is this worth it? Because I've seen way too many people make a lot of money and they didn't wind up too well. That's why, a lot of rock stars, lottery winners, they wind up in bad places because they get all this money at once and they're not prepared for it. So, and another thing about having fun, even if the money doesn't come, think about all the fun you had in the meantime.
You bet. Absolutely. So now, how do we find out more about your business online? You've got a website?
Yes, bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. Okay, that's the main website. We have everything that we do. We have our workshops. If you want to become an affiliate, you can become an affiliate. If you just go there, there's a lot of information. We got a blog. That's another thing. I'm not the only one that writes the blog. Everyone on my team writes. They all submit articles every month. And the reason for that is that helps them grow. And it helps our SEO.
You bet. Awesome. So if you want to get your finances in order, go to bedrockbusinessbuilders.com and check out Joe. Thank you so much, Joe, for rocking out with me today.
Thank you. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work From Home Rockstar podcast.